My name is Fred Branfman. I'm 70 years old now. I went to Laos in 1967 as an educational advisor with International Voluntary Services, and I lived in Laos from 67 to 71. What he was describing was how he'd gone into a cave, and he had hidden in a cave for most of those 5 years and only come out at night to try and grow his food. And I'm thinking, by the way, sir, in a very nice way, do you have any idea why we were bombed? And it just broke my heart. Why did you bomb us? Why did you kill my mother? Why did you burn my grandmother alive? What would you say? The official body in Laos in charge of cluster bomb cleanup is called the National Regulatory Administration, and they've done surveys. And there was a minimum of, they don't actually know how many people were killed and wounded by the bombing, but they discovered a minimum of 30,000 killed and wounded during the war by the bombing, and 20,000 killed and wounded after the war ended. These Laotian peasants pose absolutely no threat to us. In fact, if we were smart, we'd learn something from them.
My name Mr. Jua Bao Yang, and during the Vietnam War, at the beginning in 1960, I was a student, but finally, myself and family, we have keep moving around in the country, in the jungle. So, and necessary, I be a soldier. So, many hundreds of people die with the bombing. During that period location, the bomb dropped down. So people everywhere is a problem. So I don't want to talk to back to history much because it's still pain.
We definitely know that Laos is one of the poorest countries in the world. But they broke it down to provinces, and they showed these are the provinces that are the poorest within Laos, and they're the ones that have the bombies. And it wasn't until then that I really understood that, I mean, you can't farm if you know that when you go out and you try to plant, you might explode a bomb. And so that was finally the connection that I made between the bombies and the current economic climate within Laos. So the bombies need to be removed in order for Laos to be able to modernize.
No one would argue, we don't have a moral obligation to do it. It's just indifference. It's just, we have better things to do. I don't think there's anything better to do than, from a moral point of view or a spiritual point of view, or if we were a spiritually alive country, than to go and clean up these bombees and let these people finally stop tormenting them for 40 years. When you read the essays of the peasants from the Plain of Jars, they don't ask for money from the US. They didn't ask for they didn't ask for freedom and democracy. They were quite happy. All they wanted to do was be left alone in their little tiny villages up on the Plain of Jars, and we wouldn't leave them alone. As every day and every night, the planes came to drop bombs on us. We lived in holes to protect our lives. There was danger as the war came closer, like the sound of bombs or shells or the airplanes, which constantly made a terrible noise in the sky and led me to be terribly, terribly afraid of dying. At that time, our lives became like those of animals, desperately trying to escape their hunters. We hadn't done anything, nor harmed anyone. Why did the planes drop bombs on us? Then the planes started viciously shooting in the forest and jungle and in all inhabited places, forcing us to steal away and hide in holes. This drove literally hundreds of thousands of human beings underground to live like hunted animals for years on end. Moral imagination, the heart, to think about our victims, to treat them as more than non-people. I think if we do, we would immediately want to do whatever we could to to get more money for cleaning up the Bombi in Laos?
My name is Ku Yang. I'm a professor at California State University Stanislaus. I'm a native of Laos. I was there during my teenage years. I think that all parties involved should do their part to clear this bomb for the people of Laos. As a citizen of this country, I would say that the United States should make the effort to clean the unexplored Bombi inside Laos. And I also think that the government of Laos should do what they can to allow more assistance from the United States, from other countries, to clear this bomb. And my concern is the war ended a very long time ago. I just don't want this to continue to impact the next generation who know nothing about the war, but the Bombi.
What sorrow! We couldn't bring our cows, buffaloes, horses, pigs, dogs, ducks, and chickens. We came away only with our bodies. What sorrow! Our household possessions in the houses waiting to be used were left behind.
A conference on cluster munitions, on the awareness of cluster munitions. And so I participated in that through Legacies of War. And I got to see parts of Laos that I've never seen before. The meeting with UXO teams, clearing bombs, seeing the situation and how dire it is in terms of so much remnants of the war. A third of the country of Laos had these ordinances dropped. And so basically a third of the country is littered and polluted with these bombs. Now they're everywhere. We actually heard of an incident where a 10-year-old boy died because he was playing with a UXO. He grabbed it and he was playing with it and he was going to toss it. He tossed it and it blew up. The shrapnel went through his head and he died right away. I cannot imagine, having that type of danger every day as you go through your daily life.